Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And there was a round of class tuning adjustments that hit this week. I'll have a link to those changes at the end of this video. And there have been new strategies and hero talent builds starting to pop up on the midnight beta that are definitely shifting the overall power of the specialization. So I wanted to do a weekly update to my PvP tier list so you can have a great idea of how your specialization is doing right now. What's the trajectory of it? What level of difficulty is it likely going to give you? Do you want something that's challenging? Do you want something that's easy? Do you want something that's strong? Do you want the underdog? These types of things are important as far as making your decision. You don't want to accidentally walk into the wrong type of build for yourself because you're going to be greatly disappointed and likely very frustrated. And as always, if you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, educational and entertaining content, then make sure to smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. So we've got Affliction Warlock here. Affliction Warlock right now, it feels very easy to counter. It's very easy to dispel the unstable affliction mechanic that they've introduced to the specialization. Almost all of your damage comes from a channeled ability, Dark Harvest. So if enemies know to play around this, they can completely neuter any effectiveness from you. Getting trained by melee DPS is absolutely horrid. Even with the extra mobility that has been graced to Warlocks, it is still absolutely horrifying. So it's an extremely difficult specialization, and even if you are able to perform optimally on it and get through all of the interrupts, you're lucky if you're out damaging the Ret Paladin. So for me, I think Affliction, like the best I can do for it is B tier. I honestly want to put it lower than this. I do think if you can free cast and you're not interrupted on Dark Harvest, you can melt faces. I feel like, honestly, that there's too much going on with Affliction, and a lot of it just feels like fluff. Like we have Wither build now, so Wither's a stacking dot, Agony's a stacking dot. Even if they're at max stacks, they feel like they do no damage. Unstable affliction stacking, just a lot of stacking mechanics with it. There's a lot of GCDs involved in terms of being effective. It just seems like it's trying to do too many concepts all at once is my current opinion of it, and it's very challenging and will feel very punishing when you're playing it. Arcane, now it seems like you can play both hero talent trees, which is nice now, and they've been doing some hero tree balancing across a lot of specializations, but you can definitely get away with both of them. Arcane is still doing remarkable damage, still has decent mobility. It's obviously going to feel like less than the War Within if you played that. You're losing a lot of utility, a lot of damage reduction cooldowns, but you still feel tanky even without the invis damage reduction, because invis is still powerful. It stops casting and they can't target you for a few seconds, so it's still 100% damage reduction for at least the first second of it, even with without the tail end damage reduction applied to it. And then mirror images was probably never really super consequential anyways. I think Arcane is very hard for me because I think that, much like Affliction, it's very challenging to play, and you can get shut down on it very easily due to the one school of magic, which is a similar issue that Unstable Affliction has. So for Arcane, I do actually kind of want to put it in S tier. I think it might be one of the best casters, but it's a tough race. I'm going to put it in S tier, but this is the caveat that it's very challenging to play. So don't walk into this thinking that you're going to just bowl people over very easily. You're going to have to spend some time with it. Even with the reductions and the simplicity that's been applied to it, it's still probably one of the most challenging range DPS that you can play at the moment. But if you master it, it is definitely very effective. Arms Warrior, I'm sorry guys, but I'm putting you on the D tier. I've played both Slayer and Colossus. Colossus seems to be doing a bit better. When in double melee lobbies, with lots of melee DPS, you can feel decent, but you're still very squishy and you're just very easy to kite. And until they do something about the concussive shot snare being whatever it is, I think it's like 70 or 80% snare. I would honestly rather sit a 3-second trap route and then hit the hunter rather than walk in a 20-second snare. In 20 seconds, I'm not even in range to attack. That's way more brutal as far as overall crowd control. I felt very frustrated on my ability to be able to get uptime in a significant amount of situations, and even if I was, my damage is like maybe equal, slightly less than most of the other melee DPS, so it seems like you have only downsides and frustration with Arms Warrior at the moment. So they have to address the snares. I think universally all snares in the game need to be suppressed to 50%, and if any snare is going to be raised above that, it needs to be applied actively with a significant cooldown. And maybe not even long duration, like a short duration. Like for the first 3 seconds of the snare, it's 70%, but then it goes down to 50 because just yeah, it's going to be miserable. I really think they need to address just snares in general, because they've done a good job with the crowd control on other fronts, but the slow movement speed is going to be very tilting. I'm trying to imagine being a new warrior and you're just like RP walking to your target and you can't hit it for 30 seconds. Like, it's just not good. So yeah, I think Arms Warriors is definitely one of the weakest specs at the moment. Assassination Rogue is doing better. I'm seeing more and more of them starting to pop up since the buffs that they got. I still don't think it's insane though. I feel like the best I can give it is B tier. I think mobility, much like arms, is the issue. It's just you can get kited out by a lot of these ranged classes at the moment. It's really tough to get uptime, and if they're spread out and you can't get multi bleeds because they're not stacking, your energy regen just goes to poop, and then it's very challenging. So I think Assassinate, the best I can do is B tier. Augmentation Evoker, I don't see ever. I don't think it's doing badly, but I'm just going to put it kind of in the mid tier for now, just because I almost never see it. But from the few times I do remember seeing it, it wasn't completely awful. And it's basically functioning close to the same as you'd expect from the War Within. You guys wanted me to rate the tank specs. I've seen a couple of them popping up. Now, obviously, in Battleground Blitz, where I think most of you are going to be playing tanks, or ideally are going to be playing tanks, Blood DK is still really good, obviously, with Chains of Ice and Death Grip. That's just mechanically going to be a strong toolkit for teamfight engage and for snares in general. So I think like Blood DK is probably still at least A tier, and pretty much all the tanks have really good damage, and I think because they're buffing them for PvE, and they're not putting PvP modifiers on them, so they're still actually looking really good. Guardian Druid is probably the easiest tank as far as like rotation. You're just a beef nugget and you just spam AoE and spin and you do really big damage and you can't die. I've seen unkillable Guardian Druids, I've seen unkillable Prot Warriors, so I think Guardian's likely in a good spot too. Obviously with the spam shapeshifting, it's going to be doing really good in like flag carrying maps. Beast Mastery Hunter, I think, is still S tier. The only real downside for Beast Mastery is it is a bit squishy if you get caught, especially by things like Subtlety Rogue. But if you line up your Stampede hit, which every Beast Mastery Hunter, I think, it should be playing Pack Leader, because they reworked it. Now Stampede is like you beast your wrath, your kill command summons a line of pets, and if the enemy target stands in that line, they basically just melt instantly. It just does an insane amount of damage. Brewmaster, I don't see a lot of, so I'm going to be a little bit more conservative with it and say that it might not be as strong as some of the other tank options, just because I don't see it hardly ever. It's possible that it's even better. Again, it's just there are no Battleground Blitz queues on the beta, and I don't ever see it, but it's been getting damage buffs and reworks just the same as everything else, so it probably feels pretty strong. Feral Druid, I don't think is doing too great. I'm going to put it onto B tier. I think the damage is still just a little bit low. Utility, they did a great job pruning it. The utility is still there. Great job pruning it. You don't have the fast cyclones anymore, though, with Heart of the Wild, the reworked Heart of the Wild. But the damage output just feels a little bit low. I feel like in a lot of cases, like the specs that are on B tier, just you need like a little bit of a tune-up, like Agony and Corruption, and maybe even UA. Just a little bit of a damage tune-up on these guys, and they're going to be a decent spot. I still wish that Affliction, I just feel like it's got too many. It's trying to do too many different mechanics all at the same time. I feel like it could be simplified a little bit more. Balanced Druid, this might come as a surprise, but I actually think is S tier. It's very tanky at the moment. Frenzy Regen's great. They buffed the healing a lot, the off healing a lot. Really good damage. Still has the same kit from the War Within, so really good pick right now. Devourer, Demon Hunter, also really good. Am I gonna have too many S tier specs? This is why I was a bit worried about this. Because Devourer, I've honestly, now I've seen people playing Annihilator, which is the hero talent tree, aside from, what was it, Void Scarred? I think they renamed it instead of Fell Scarred, or something like that. I've seen a few Devourers starting to play the other hero talent build, and it seems like it's got good damage. Collapsing Star feels a lot more viable than the last time I was giving criticism towards it, but I'm seeing a lot more of it, and it hits really hard. I'm kind of hoping that they end up making Devourer Demon Hunter more on the OP side, just because it's new, than not on the OP side. I would hate for it to just be kind of like non-existent, but the one shot is definitely kind of still a bit of egregious. I just don't know if I want to put it on S or A. It feels weird not putting it on S with how good it is, but it's like I have so many S tier specs. We might have to wiggle some of these around at the end, but I'll leave it up here for now. Demonology Warlock, really tanky, really durable, and the most amount of CC in the game. Where do we want to put this guy? Because there's no way we could put, are we really going to put 5 specs on the S tier? Like, I mean, the ideal situation is everybody feels OP for something, right? And you're all on S tier for some reason, and then like so that's like the perfect game. You all have something that you're OP about. Demo has a lot of things going for it. It's a lot easier than Affliction, and I feel like it's way more straightforward. Just what you're trying to do, the engine of building up soul shards, spending them hand of Gul'dan. You're not trying to do 10 other things that require channeling and a ton of GCDs like Affliction. I really feel like it's streamlined, it's smooth, and it's strong. Has a lot of options. I can't believe I'm do this. Something's going to have to give here. Destruction Warlock. I think the only downside towards Demonology for Destruction for me is it's a bit squishier and a little bit less CC, obviously, without the stun with the Axe Toss. And that's the main reason. It's just a tiny bit more fragile. Devastation Evoker, I think, is really good as well. Solid pick if you're a beginner. Destro is as well. Although maybe Devastation will get away a little bit easier. You're a little more durable. The Aura Mastery of Obsidian Scales is nice while you're flying around, disintegrating people. It's basically the same. Nothing's really changed. Discipline Priest. Void Weaver is kind of dead. Everybody I see now is playing Oracle. Oracle got reworked. It's a lot easier. It's basically just all about penancing for healing. So your penance is just top people. It did get nerfed a tiny bit on the most recent build, so I don't know if I want to put it on A tier or B tier. I think A tier is probably fair for it. At the moment, we'll put the tanks at the end of this. A tier I think is fair for it right now. Ellie Shaman, healing buffs are great, but the damage is still really just not there. I think like the best I could do is C tier for Ellie. Like you can sort of make it work, but I feel like all these other guys just have way more punch than you, and that's the main thing that you're lacking. And it just feels like the proc rate on Lava Burst is really low. I'd really like some Dispel mechanic on Flame Shock that's strong. Like if you Dispel Flame Shock, you get 20% haste. You literally get Bloodlust. And then you can spam out a bunch of Lightning Bolts or something. And you could place Stormbringer, help Stormbringer viability in a PvP scenario. But right now for me, I think C tier is like the best I can do. Enhancement Shaman, I'm going to put this on A tier. It has really good one shot. I don't know, actually. The changes to healing, I think maybe this is probably more fair. Put it on B tier. You have good cooldown damage, very good cooldown damage. Survivability is a little bit low. They reworked all the healing. Apparently, there's some bugs at the moment with Maelstrom, and the cost of your spells that are impeding your ability to heal. So, and from my experience playing against it literally just yesterday, it didn't feel insane. It was losing more than often than winning. So I think it's probably B tier is probably a suitable spot. Now, Party Waffles, who's multi-rank 1 DK, was saying that he thinks Frosty K is about as good as Unholy. I don't see enough of them to really do that comparison, but if it's his hands-on experience, I would kind of trust that. So I'm going to say it's probably at least A. I still don't think it's as good as Unholy, but if he thinks it's close, it's probably A tier is going to be the location. Fire Mage, god dang, dude, there's no way I'm going to put another one on S tier. Am I like, this is too much? This is too much on S tier, bro. The damage and combustion is insane, dude. The scorch damage is insane, though. You are kind of squishy. I'm going to put it on A tier, but I legitimately want to put it on S. It seems like it does disgusting damage. Frost Mage in a shuffle environment I think is weaker, but with like Rogue Mage I think it could be good. I'm going to put it on B tier instead of A. From the Frost Mages I've seen, it seems like it's actually the easiest spec to take out at the moment. So a little bit less durability, which is weird because it's usually that's the advantage of Frost. But it does seem like it's struggling. Obviously, all these mages are going to struggle a bit with BM Hunter the way that it is. Fury Warrior, I actually think is doing pretty solid. It does a lot more damage than Arms, at least. But you're still going to have the kiting issue. So that's the kiting issue. Like these guys, it's kind of like a little bit of a damage issue for all of them, mostly these two. This guy's not a damage issue. The snares are just so oppressive. So I don't know if I want to go into B tier with him or if I want to go into A tier. It's like a high B tier, if not an A tier. And remember, the tier lists go from like top to bottom and left to right. So like on the left is better than on the right. Havoc Demon Hunter, if you play Rain from Above, it's really cheesy. It does a lot of damage just because HP is so high. But without that Rain from Above damage, I don't know. I feel like it's like the cheese mechanic of Rain from Above, I think puts it on A tier, but without that, I don't think it's as strong. But I'll put it on A tier for right now just because the Rain from Above PvP talent exists and it does an insane amount of damage. Holy Priest, I feel like it's not insane. I just feel like I'm vibing it on mid B tier at the moment. Again, it's very straightforward. I think losing a little bit of instant damage is kind of unfortunate, but it's just, I don't see it having any like insane throughput compared to some of the other healers like Holy Paladin, which got reworked, and then they rewinded that and they gave it a bunch of instant healing. So yeah, Holy Paladin is still remarkably strong, especially as the Lightsmith version of it. You do a lot of damage from ranged. Really good pick at the moment. Marksmanship Hunter, I'm going to put onto A tier. Still just really good damage output, even with the 3-second aim shot. Although I do think BM is a bit better, is more instant on the go than Marksman, but it's not awful. Mistweaver, another insane healer to go after right now in the patch. Just crazy throughput, crazy mana efficiency, great crowd control, honestly, now with Paralyze and Song of Chi-Ji. I've seen that a lot, and adds quite a bit of damage for a lot of opportunities. So this might actually be the patch where Mistweaver is the go-to, because it's not been the case for a while. Outlaw Rogue, I feel like the best I can do is C tier. Like Outlaw and Asa, I think are both kind of just not insane. Venruki seems to think that Outlaw is doing really good from his playtime on it. When you play Outlaw and then play Subtlety, you're just like, there's no way these are even in the same ballpark. Like they're just not, they're not even on the same planet as far as viability. It's a bit easier to play. I'd still say it's the hardest melee though, even though with it being a bit easier. But Subtlety is just astronomically beyond it. And obviously if you're a rogue and you're picking between three damage specs, you're going to compare them directly as far as your performance. So I think it's a little bit lower. I think mobility is also a little bit of an issue. Again, same issue with the warrior with the snares that are applied. Preservation Evoker I don't think is insane. I think it's probably the weakest healer right now. They nerfed a lot of its damage out. A lot of its cooldowns are also just not strong at the moment. Like Rewind feels very underwhelming. So the cooldowns are not strong. Damage is low. It really needed those because it was, the close range healer that needs to get into combat a lot. Prot Warrior is really good. I'll put it on A tier with the other guys here. These guys just do solid and well-rounded good damage. But Prot Pally is the first tank I'm putting on S tier. You do a lot of damage and a lot of healing. You have a huge amount of support right now. I think Prot Pally is crazy good. And I'm not sure if this new Guardian of Ancient Queens thing where you can like summon in angels on people, if you can use it on flag carriers or not. I would imagine you can't, but if you can, that's going to be really OP. Resto Druid, I think, is at least A tier. I think it's a little bit lower than Paladin Mistweaver. Like if you play it perfectly, you might be as good as these guys, but that means you're playing it perfectly, whereas these guys can get away with a little bit more with how much throughput they have. And the damage output you have is a lot lower too. But it's very fun to play. It's very fun to play with the pacing of the game. You have a lot more time to do like cat form stuff and fiddle around with things, but I think these guys have more throughput at the moment. Ret Paladin, I'm going to put on to A tier. I think it's just solid, just good damage. It lost crowd control, which will be felt into these guys the most. I feel like these guys are chilling at the top, honestly, just because Repentance is gone. Repentance was like such a hard thing for Mistweaver especially, and now that that's gone, they don't really have to deal with it. Resto Shaman, okay, maybe I was wrong about Prez, because Resto Shaman got hammered so hard in this recent build. Ascendance is Garbanzo now. It doesn't provide like any passive splash healing. It's just only on casted spells. You have to hard cast a significant amount relative to every other healer, and you still struggle to even get people topped. The only advantage for it right now is that your totems are basically invisible without add-ons. So like grounding totem sits almost full duration, counter strike, things like that. That's like the only advantage. But healing tide and ascendance, when you compare them, it's much like Prez. Like its cooldowns just don't exist. So yeah, Rest of Shaman for me, I think has fallen down a lot. Losing the instant healing waves during ascendance windows is main reason for that, because now you have to hardcast, which honestly makes it an ethical healer. But when you're fighting against unethical strategies, being ethical means you're just bad. So it's unfortunate. Shadow is still really good, but you have to play Archon. It does a lot of damage, but much the same. If you don't want to deal with interrupts, don't play it, because you will just be miserable getting shut down like Affliction with interrupts. Do I think that it's S tier or A tier? I'm going to put it on A tier because obviously I'm flooding that S tier bracket too hard, but I think it's definitely A tier. A lot of specs are very strong and or good, right? Like if you're A tier, you're good to go pretty much. B tier and below, increasingly need levels of help. Subtlety Rogue, first melee DPS spec going up here in S tier, but it's definitely S tier. You will carry completely on this spec. It does so much damage. It's very easy, very straightforward to play. And it just feels like it gets more stuns than other specs. I think it's the talent where when you vanish or shadow dance, you get a charge of cheap shot. I don't think the other specs have that, so it feels like they run out a lot faster, but honestly maybe it's just subtlety has too many. But yeah, subtlety is really good. Survival Hunter, I kind of want to put this on S tier. I think I'm going to. I think the boomstick damage can completely triple kill a team. Obviously lost scatter shot, lost some utility, but the damage component of it is carrying it very hard. And Unholy, I was questioning dropping this from S tier. I was questioning it, but then I watched Mez and I was like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. Even though they nerfed the healing slightly on it, I think it's still really good spec. Does really good damage. The Soul Reaper window is the main thing. Like for a lot of these guys, it's like Touch the Magi. That's their big cooldown, and you got to be careful. Incarn, big cooldown. Be careful. Be Sharad, be careful. Metamorphosis in general, be careful. Demo is just solid overall damage. It does. Honestly, it's really well tuned in that regard. Like as far as pacing, it's exactly where I'd want a DPS spec to be. Whereas the other ones are a lot more feast and famine. You got the cooldown up. You're dominating. No cooldown. Survival is pretty decent damage though outside of cooldowns, and Subtlety just doesn't seem to have a cooldown on any of its stuff. It's just waiting for the DR and can do damage all the time. Unholy really just feels like it only does damage to Soul Reaper, but it completely mows people over. Vengeance Demon Hunter, I don't see a lot of. Again, I can't see this one being too bad, so I'm leaving it in A tier for right now. Mobility is definitely carrying this one, but it did lose a little bit of CC in this expansion. Windwalker Monk, the final melee. I toss this up on the S tier. We just have a huge party up on S tier. We're going to have to make a tier list for the S tier specs, separated from everybody else, to delineate them a little bit more. But I do think Windwalker is either the best A tier spec, but it feels so weird putting Windwalker on Frosty Case tier and Havoc's tier because I think it's better. But you can get kited really hard sometimes. I feel like the other three that are up there don't have those issues. I'm gonna put it onto A tier, but I think it could be justifiable to put it onto S tier at the moment. So a significant amount of specs, excelling if also possibly over excelling. A couple of guys down here just need some throughput buffs, right? Just that's why I'm hoping the class tuning is going to just be a couple of weeks of like plus 10, plus 15%, whatever, to some of the core abilities for these guys. Hopefully not their cooldown damage, because cooldowns are still very powerful. But I think it's moving in a good direction. I think we're making pace here, right? Obviously we're coming pretty close to the deadline, and I anticipate the most significant PvP changes will probably happen after the expansion launches. Because that's when they're going to get the biggest flood of data from players. And obviously, even though I'm trying to be as extensive as I can with my testing, I'm probably going to miss stuff, and so will other people, and new things will come out. There's an infinite number of combinations of things and an infinite number of combinations of bugs that could possibly be impacting the strength or output of your spec. So that's the breakdown. These are my vibes right now for the specializations, and I'll update you guys next week and keep up to date with the news, with patch changes as well as some guides and builds here in the future. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.